the thing I want to talk about today is massively, massively, massively self-interested. And also, I think, hopefully extraordinarily valuable. I've got what I would consider to be a cultivated superpower. And when I say cultivated superpower, what I mean by that is I think this is something that you can do for yourself. This skill set is the reason I'm nerd famous, to whatever degree I'm nerd famous. I think, there's like A-level celebrities, A-list and B-list and C-list. I'm like, if you go around the alphabet 4 or 5 times, I'm like an M5. And I've been able to use whatever clout I have to make a pretty significant amount of money and launch a bunch of businesses. So I'm going to tell y'all some stories. I have, throughout the course of my career, put myself in a position to be able to access some folks that I honestly should not have had access to. A couple examples. I ended up being friends with the CEO of MavenLink. His name's Ray Granger. He and I did co-branded content together, and he hired my agency at a pretty significant sum of money at the time. He was one of my biggest clients. Infusionsoft, I was one of their strongest referral partners. The folks at HubSpot flew me to Boston to not only speak, but also court me as an agency partner when I was neck deep with Infusionsoft. Acton, if you remember Acton, they're garbage, but at one point I'm on the phone with the VP in order to run their partner program. Sean Clark, who knows Sean Clark, go high level. $3 billion valuation. InvestorFuse, I had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet for 7 years. And it was all built because I became InvestorFuse's #1 referral partner. A digital marketer, quite a few things. I think that's enough. Here's where all this came from. I got all that before I knew how to do anything else because I am obsessively committed to contributing inside of communities. That's been the single biggest, most important needle mover of my professional life. Community is the future of all things marketing. We know we're in a traffic bubble. That's an absolute fact. And I'm not even telling you which community. You have to choose a community right now today, somebody else's community, by the way, and give obsessively. And I'm going to show you how to do it from a framework perspective. And then I'm going to show you how I'm doing this right now in a whole other community to show you that it's still working. Like I can replicate this as many times as I want, as often as I want. And that's actually, again, it's really frustrating to me that this is as easy as it is because it just shows how few people are willing to do this work. It's easy, but it's tedious. Does that make sense? It's easy, but it's tedious. So here's the GIVER framework. I'm super excited about it. This is how you become irreplaceable in any community. And my hope is everybody who shows up live and everybody who's watching will start doing this right now today. Don't put this on a list. This is the thing that you go to today. The needle mover for you. I happen to believe this is the little hinge that swings the big door. At least that's been true in my life. So this is the GIVER framework. It's an acronym, GIVE. G is give. I is invest, V is voice, E is elevate, R is repeat. The reason that I think this matters is because I think this is the single most important skill set right now, especially as we move into an ecosystem where AI is eating all tactical, Pavlovian prompt response skills. The only 2 skills that I think right now we should be working to cultivate as entrepreneurs are, number 1, AI, which is, it has a time horizon. There's forced obsolescence. Number 2 is authority building. And the way you start building authority is through community. So this is the way that you build authority inside a community. And I think this is, I'm a Google Ads guy. I'm a paid traffic guy. I think this is the most important thing you can do. It's exponentially more important than traffic because this authority has equity to it where traffic doesn't have equity. So give, here's how you give. And if you don't know where to do this, by the way, choose my community. I'd love for you to do that. I've got a school community with 200 people. And what's nice about it is once I've offered this ethos, everybody will know what you're doing. So everybody's going to try to hopefully support you in that endeavor. Really, you should be choosing a community that's consistent with whatever business you happen to be. If you're cleaning pools, go to whoever's supplying all your chlorine pool cleaner stuff. Because that person, by the way, has way more referrals and strategic partners for you than you'd ever realize. If you're a professional services agency, go to one of your vendor communities. If you're in a mastermind, start with your mastermind. But first, number 1, the G in GIVER, the GIVER framework is give. Lead with value, share what you know. Now, this is the single most important thing I have to share with you right now. You do not need to be an expert. As a matter of fact, it's better if you're not. It's better if you're not. And I'll tell you why. Experts are inaccessible. Hi, my name is Kasim. I've built 6 multi-million-dollar businesses. I've had 3 successful exits, 1 for 8 figures. I've generated a $10,000,000 net worth. And everything I just said makes my expertise feel inaccessible to where somebody who's just starting is and could be, right? It's like, oh, dude, well, yeah, of course you did it. And everything that I say after that fact is going to be a lot easier because it's like, well, you've got time, you've got money, you've got resources, you have connection. Expertise starts to distance you from people. What they want is they want a peer who's 2 steps ahead. They want a peer who's 2 steps ahead. Now, 2 steps is chosen by great intention, and there's a reason for this. If the line of sight in any process is generally step by step, so if somebody's a step ahead, it just feels like they're a little bit faster. But when you're 2 steps ahead, you're giving somebody the opportunity to not just know what to do next, but know what to do next and then prepare for what comes after. So don't worry about being an expert or not being an expert. It's better if you position yourself as a fellow traveler who just happens to be two steps ahead. And I think this is the most important paradigm shift for you to assume in order to begin contributing in communities. Because if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, stop. Don't. You don't have to be an imposter if you present yourself as a perpetual student. You're like, there's nothing impostery about that. You're learning. And as you're learning, you're sharing. So as you learn, every single person in here, and I know this by virtue of the fact that you're in here, is a professional and perpetual student. You wouldn't be joining a community like this. You wouldn't be on this live. You wouldn't be watching this video. People that read, watch courses, listen to podcasts are perpetual students. And perpetual students are usually really good. As a matter of fact, Andy, who's on the call, said, hey, man, I don't like school because it doesn't let me add my note taker. Perpetual students are really good at taking notes. Guess what that is? High value content that other people are going to want, need, and benefit from. Take your notes, turn them into detailed, useful posts, which, by the way, is the easiest thing to do in the whole wide world now that you have ChatGPT. Use your content. Don't GPT this, but clean it up using your favorite LLM. It does not need to be ultra original. You might say, I have the same notes as everybody else. I promise you, you don't. I promise you, you don't. I think that you're going to provide a level of value that other people are going to find just by sheer factor of you double clicking on what they wrote down if it's redundant, or you coming up with something that they forgot to write down if it's not. No matter what, it's of value. And we all know that because when somebody shares their notes with us, we download them, don't we? Those are the things I'm most ravenous for when I'm in communities. So share what? Frameworks, breakdowns, summaries, examples. Bullet points. Look at my slides. Bullet points. People don't need paragraphs. They don't need massive amounts of information. They need bullet points. Why is that awesome and why am I harping on it? Because it's the easiest content to create. So go into a community, lead with value, position yourself as a perpetual student. Hey, I don't know everything there is to know, but here's what I think, here's what I'm learning, here's where I am, this is what's working. And I think this is actually one of the biggest gives of all, by the way. Be willing to ask the dumb question. Be willing to ask the dumb question. Everybody's got the same question in a 200-person community. 80% of that room is going to have the same damn question. And of the people with the question, 99% of them are terrified to ask it for whatever reason. It's imposter syndrome or fear of looking stupid or, whatever positioning. If you step up and you're willing to just say, hey, sorry if I'm an idiot, but I don't understand this, or this doesn't make sense, or this doesn't seem to be working, you're going to get a bunch of people to double click and say, man, me too. Thank God you asked that. And it'll always be behind the scenes because they're all afraid. If you're willing to do this in whatever community you're in, that's going to position you as a thought leader right out of the gate. Because thought leadership isn't just the knowing what to do. It's also identifying when there's a gap that needs to be bridged. That's why I started this call the way I started this call. I've never built a framework before. I really, really appreciate y'all telling me what I can do better. Now, suddenly what happened? I've paved a way for communication that didn't exist prior to, and you can do the exact same thing. This also puts you in a position, maybe the final point is to provide answers before people even realize they need them, because why? You're 2 steps ahead. You're 2 steps ahead. So this is, if you did nothing but this in the GIVER framework, by the way, I think you'd be crushing life and you start to establish yourself as an authority inside of whatever community you're in. And I'm telling you, the rise is meteoric, and I'm going to prove that to you in just a moment. By the end of this call, I have an example that I think is hopefully going to be really impressive. But the last thing I'll say, and the thing that I hope you do, if you start using this framework, is begin documenting your growth path today. As I was going through this process, I was like, man, I wish I actually, Iman Gadzhi did this really well. If you've seen Iman's YouTube channel, he's one of the fastest growing thought leaders in the whole wide world. He documented his growth path from dipshit kid who didn't know anything, trying to make money online to, I think he's got a couple $100 million net worth, and he's one of the most influential people on the internet. No matter what happens for you, you're going to find yourself in a position where the distance traveled is more significant than you're going to be able to identify retroactively. So start documenting your growth path now, because that's also quality content. And that's the type of thing that you can share. And to be honest with you, that's the type of thing that establishes you a thought leader. From G, we're going to move to I. Invest your time consistently. Here's the thing about being a community leader. The people that host those communities don't believe you're going to keep doing this. As a matter of fact, in the very beginning, you might be met with trepidation. I remember at Infusionsoft specifically, I had a message from a person who's now a friend that basically was like, dude, what are you after? What are you doing right now? In the example I'm going to show you at the end of this call, I've gotten that really consistently. It's people saying, why would you do this? What's the game? What are you selling on the back end? And I think that that's okay. We need to forgive them because it's hard to imagine that people would just give for no reason. But if you work yourself past their fear and past their trepidation, what ends up happening is the opposite becomes true. They start saying, hey, Christina, I realize you've said hi to more people in the community than anybody else. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you. Would you mind actually if I just made you my welcome wagon community member? And then now all of a sudden, Christina gets to be the first line of introduction for everybody that comes in the community. And can you imagine what kind of impact that would have for her and her business and her ability to connect people and establish referral sources and referral partners? You have to be consistent. So you have to invest, and you have to invest consistently. And it's not just about posting. It's also about things like comments and reacts. And by the way, that's an easy button. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to show you how to do all of this in as little as 30 minutes a day. What you really want to do is you want to make 5 touches a day, and you're going to feel like the most interactive person in any community that you're in. The point here is earning the reputation with people on a consistent basis and making them feel like you're not fly by night. There's not a jab, 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 right hook coming a la Gary Vee. You're actually posting. So what does consistent mean? It depends on the community. In a community like the Digital Marketer Certified Partner Program, daily was very accessible because there are so many people there and they're so ravenous for content. You might be in a community that's lighter, and so maybe weekly is actually super consistent. You decide what works for the community, and most importantly, what works for you. Posts do not need to be long. They just need to be valuable. So it could be one tip, one trick, and make whatever the content is something that's easy for you to do. If you like video, shoot a video. If you like writing, write it. If you like graphics, do the graphic. If you're really good at vibe coding, start vibe coding stuff. Like, put it in a position that's an easy button for you. Don't put yourself in a position where you're now committing to creating something that's hard. You'll notice I do all my slides myself. Aren't they beautiful? Because I don't want to have to go through the graphic design process of figuring out something that's going to be heavy for me. So this is just the way I present. And if people don't like it and it's not valuable, it is what it is. But I make sure that I like little hinges. I like the 80-20 rule. Ralph Burns, my co-host in Perpetual Traffic, always used to say, the little hinge that swings the big door. What's the thing that you can do that has large impact? And when there's a live event like this one, or there's an in-person, or there's a meet and greet, show up, turn your camera on, let people see your face, ask questions, answer questions. You want to be visible in this community, invest in a community. This is also, by the way, why I tell you to choose one. Pick one community and invest in that community. A lot of us have the bad habit of kind of being tourists, and we become wallflowers in 3 or 5 or 10 or 15 communities, and we're not committing to any one of them. It's a horrible practice, and it's not worth your time at that point. It's actually not worth your time to be in any of them. Most community members join a community and sit back and they wait for the value to come to them. If you're the conduit of that value, then you're going to own that community more than the community leaders will. Rachel Miller talks about this all the time. If you don't know Rachel, she's one of the smartest social media people on the planet. And she was a faculty member of my mastermind for a long time. And she talks about how this is still true, I believe. In Facebook groups, if a Facebook group goes docile, meaning Facebook no longer sees the owner of that group managing the group, and you step into that group and you start managing it and talking and communicating, at some point, Facebook automatically gives you administrative access. Isn't that insane? Like, that should be illegal. And here's a $1 trillion organization that's realized the leader of the community isn't the person that started, it's the person that's managing the community. So be consistent. You don't need to post things that blow people's mind every single day. It just needs to be valuable. And the consistency is going to beat anything else. Alex talks about this all the time. Keep going, keep the reps up, show people that you're going to be consistent. And then over time, that's what brings you to the top. So that's the I in the GIVER framework. Voice. This is my favorite. This is my favorite because it's the one that I'm most scared of, to be honest with you. So this is what I struggle with the most. If you want to know what I struggle with the most, I am so worried about what people think about me. I have that sad, pathetic personality that loves attention, and I really appreciate pats on the back, and I am afraid to offend, and I'm worried about being wrong. And when I approach life or community management or interaction from that perspective, it goes horribly. At best, nothing happens, and at worst, I come off as inauthentic and people can see through it. The most important thing you can do is just show up as you. It's your voice, your perspective with courage. And the reason you want to do that is because the second worst thing that can happen if you're not being you is people are repelled by you. The first worst thing that can happen if you're not being you is they're attracted to you, and then you have to play that role forever. When you show up as you are going to attract some people and you are going to repel some people. And it's taken me 20 years, my entire adult life, to realize that the repelling is good too. The repelling is good too. People that say, oh, you're not my jam. I don't like the way you communicate. You talk too fast. I don't know why you haven't cut your hair. whatever. Like, you're not my jam. The attract and the repel is great. And it's the reason communities are built the way that communities are built. Communities are hierarchical structures. And you're not looking to be at the very top of the dominance hierarchy. That's actually the worst place for you to be frank. What you want to do is you want to be the top tier, but you want to be one of many. And that puts you in a position of having other peers that other people can look to. So you attract some and repel some, they attract some and they repel some. And when you have that symbiotic environment, it's interesting because rising tides will float all ships. There's a fun data point that has always blown my mind, and I think about often in business. If y'all know anything about McDonald's and Burger King, I think they can be the gold standard when it comes to learning how to operate in a competitive environment. McDonald's did this in-depth analysis for every new location it opened for years. And it cost them millions of dollars at one point in order to do this. They would do demographic and psychographic analyses. They would look at traffic patterns. They would look at new build patterns. They'd look at permits taken out with the city to see who was building what and where, what businesses were thriving, what weren't. And they'd invest all this money to figure out where they would put a McDonald's, what corner they put the McDonald's on. And then Burger King would just wait and figure out, as soon as McDonald's broke ground, they'd put a Burger King right across the street. Because why wouldn't you do that, right? Like, that's the smartest thing that you could possibly do. It's like, these fools have already paid millions of dollars to figure out where to put the location. Here's why I bring that up. What the McDonald's people found was, because they were growing way faster than Burger King, when a McDonald's went in solo, they made, I'm going to make the numbers up now because I don't remember the statistics, but let's say that, a solo McDonald's unit was doing 50 grand a week. When the Burger King was added next to the McDonald's, 50 grand a week would become 50 grand a day. And that's not the real data point, but the gist is exactly right. And the reason for that, the psychology behind it, because they studied this, was when people pass a McDonald's by itself, the option is, am I going to go to McDonald's or am I going to go home? Because that's the way that consumers think. It's all optionality. When people pass a McDonald's and a Burger King, they go, oh, am I going to go to McDonald's or am I going to go to Burger King? And McDonald's was generally the choice. So McDonald's would make the 50 grand, but the Burger King would make, 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever. And so it was a symbiotic relationship, to the point where McDonald's SOP for the longest time was, once they've identified the corner, they would let Burger King know to speed up the process, because they wanted the Burger King. And Burger King always got the plan B corner. McDonald's got the grade A corner. So why wouldn't they do that? You can be in that exact same position. So you're going to find, as you try to climb these ladders, that there will be one or two or three people that are seemingly better or more effective or ahead. And y'all, that is A-okay. They are actually your best friend. You're not competing against them, the two of you. And if you're Burger King to their McDonald's, great. That's awesome. But don't think for a fraction of a second, oh, somebody already has this community. There's already a thought leader. I have no value to provide. The exact opposite's true. You actually are going to have a hard time if there's zero and you become the one. That's not a great place to be. You want to be in a group of one or two or three. You want a Burger King and a McDonald's and a Taco Bell and a Jack in the Box. And because now you're putting yourself in a position to have a very unique, very authentic voice. But in order to be one of those people, it has to be your voice. It has to be presented with a level of courage and authenticity that allows for people that agree with you to feel protected. The worst thing, this is why politicians always get nailed. The worst thing that a politician can do when they make a statement that their constituency believes and agrees with is to then apologize. Now they're stabbing their constituents in the back. You can't do that. You have to voice your perspective and voice it with courage. Now, if you're wrong, that's okay. It's okay to be wrong. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to capitulate when you're right. So you're not here to agree. You're here to make sure the conversation nobody can play tennis without two people, right? You're one of the other people. And some of the words that I've used here may not resonate. Clear, bold, concise. Maybe that's not exactly it. I'm not asking you to be bullish. I'm not asking you to be arrogant. I'm not asking you to be a prick, but I'm asking you to choose a lane, pick a position, plant a flag, and decide who you are. And if you disagree with something, y'all pipe up. If you get kicked out or ostracized of that community, good. That's the best thing that could have happened. But more likely, you galvanize people. You bring people to you and say, no, I actually agree with that. And this last quote, I think is worth some meditation if you're going to do this. You earn authority by taking intellectual risks. Look at everybody that you follow. I love Jordan Peterson to death. I call him my digital dad. You want to talk about intellectual risks? Everybody that we follow has taken a position. And the people that don't take a position are unfollowable. They're repellent. Using the political spectrum again, you look at some of the recent elections, for better or for worse, regardless of where you sit, you're watching politicians that take very strong positions that are massively polarizing. And then we're watching politicians that are trying to ride the middle. And as much as the whole world claims to be moderate, if that were true, why are the polarizing politicians constantly winning? So, and I'm not telling you to be a polarizing politician, by the way, but I am saying pick a lane, plant a flag. Step 4 in the GIVER framework, we've done GIV, and now we're on E, which is elevate others like a leader would. I had an experience with Christina Hooper that I wrote about on Facebook. Christina Hooper, who ironically is on this call, a digital marketer asked me to be one of their coaches for their elite program. They had 4 coaches in total. It was a really big deal for me at the time. It was like an inflection point in my career because it led to so many other things. And it came, by the way, from giving in their community. And I was terrified because I've never coached before. And I'm not good at coaching, as everybody who's on this call can see. And I have massive imposter syndrome, and I'm having the hardest time knowing what to do. And there's 30 people showing up on this call every single week, and I just feel inadequate. And then in walks, digitally speaking, this young lady with bright blue hair who was freaking brilliant. And her name was Christina Hooper. And she was late to the cohort. I don't know why, Christina, but you weren't there the first, I don't know how many meetings, call it 3 or 5. And so I'm finally starting to get my sea legs, and I'm finally starting to feel like, okay, I'm kind of leading and people are listening to me. Then Christina joins and somebody asks a question and she kind of shyly chimes in and pipes up and people like the answer. And then somebody else asks a question and she's a little more bold this time. And that carries on until all of a sudden they're asking her more questions than they're asking me. And I felt like I got to shut this shit down. Who does this girl think she is? I'm the coach. And it came from a position of, I want to be able to do the thing they've asked me to do. I feel like an imposter anyway. I had this, thank God it was brief, but I just had this visceral, like, this shouldn't be allowed. And how do I fight this? And I'm grateful that that was not my response. Instead, I decided, you know what? You tell the truth and whatever happens afterward is the ideal outcome. And so I started to really lean into it. And I just started to say what I thought and what I felt, which was, you were brilliant. That's amazing. That's genius. I can't believe that. And it emboldened Christina to a point to where I actually really felt like she ended up being way more the coach than me. And I became something of a guide and a guide or a proctor. We had this moment on the coaching call where there was a woman who was just the hardest case I've ever had in my entire life, and nobody could get through to her. And Christina, I don't know what she ate that morning, but she came to the call swinging, and she basically grabbed the bull by the horns and she sat her down and she ran through this process that was very iterative, very Socratic. And we're all watching. There's 30 people on this call watching this thing happen and unfold. And it was magic. Christina helped this person identify what their business model could be and should be. And this was after everybody in the group had tried. And we're watching it live, and it was awe-inspiring, truly. It was amazing. And she has it recorded. I think it's, and Christine, if you have it on your website, will you drop it in the chat? All of us were just like blown away. You could hear a pin drop. And I remember thinking like, that's one of the most special things I've ever experienced in a community setting like this. And it wouldn't have happened if I tried to shut her down. And that was my weakness, and that was my insecurity. And instead, by supporting this person who is, by her own admission, I hope I'm not outing you, Christina, if I say this, a little shy and maybe not necessarily the most social person in every environment. She calls herself neurospicy. It just took a little support and a little coaxing. And here's what's really interesting is everybody, I hope this is okay to say, everybody thought I was the best coach at Digital Marketer. We actually had a problem internally because they all kept trying to switch to my group. And all the other coaches kept asking me, dude, what are you doing? And they're just sitting there bringing the fire every week. They were all smarter than me. They were all better than me. And all I would do is just find what was valuable in the others. And the more I did that, the less that was required of me and the better I think people thought of me. So if you want to know how to lead in a community, if you want to know how to serve in a community, find the people in the community that are already doing the thing and don't try to beat them or outrun them. Shine a light on them. People, sadly, often need to be told where the value is. Very often they need to be told, hey, did you see what just happened? That's fire. Pay attention, write that down. And what's really interesting about it is you become more of a thought leader than the person that came up with the thought leadership. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to be pernicious about this, and I've seen people do this, there's somebody doing it to me right now, what you can do is you steal thunder by double clicking. There's a toxic way to do it. So don't do it that way. But when you find people that are really providing value, shining a light on them and making sure other people know. And then if you want to clarify, re-articulate, prop up, add context. That's a little hinge that swings the big door. It's actually the easiest thing you can do in the community. It takes the least amount of time and it makes you the most friends and the most strategic partners. I think that this to me is the most sophisticated approach that I've offered for a variety of reasons. And it's maybe been the biggest needle mover for me. That's the E in the GIVER framework. And now we're going to move to R. and you've probably already guessed are, I guess I gave it to you at the beginning of the slide, so you don't have to guess. Repeat and reinforce. Now, this doesn't mean just repeat everything that I gave you in the GIVE. Your content is only rote and routine to you. You are the only person that thinks everybody's already heard it, everybody's already said it. I see this when I was doing podcast interviews. It was really frustrating because you'd be interviewing somebody about something really extraordinary that you're so interested in, that you're actually excited about, that you've never heard before. But because they just talked about this yesterday, they would say things like, "Oh, you know what? I was just telling my friend," or "I just had this conversation," or and what happens is psychologically for them, they just did a Facebook Live about this, or they were just on another podcast, or they just on stage, and so they tell the story with the preface that, "Hey, I just said this," and then they tell the short version, which is obscenely stupid because it's like, even if there is some overlap, even if the overlap is 50%, half of the audience doesn't know, dude. Go all the way. Reinforce what it is that you were saying and refresh your old content. I'm going to show you how I've done this with no shame to great success. Go back. Look at what you published a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you're as old as me. There's so much gold there. Stop obsessing over, oh, I need to come up with new. I need to come up with fresh. I need to be cutting edge. No, you don't. Go back. Go back and look at the things that you posted that have gotten thumbs ups and comments. Bet money, if it's 30 days old, you could probably recycle it and maybe add a little bit more color, and bam, you have yourself brand new, bold content. People are busy. Audiences are massive. They're so much bigger than you ever think. Add a little context. You can add a part 2. You can add a recap. You can add an upgrade. You can add, or honestly, change your mind. Gosh, I used to think this, but now I think that. That's huge. That's so helpful. Repeat and reinforce. And that repetition will, number one, help you build community leadership. And number two, keep you from ever having to worry about what most of you are worried about right now, which is why I don't even know what to say. I mentioned all the case studies I have in all those communities. Guess what I did in all those communities? Same damn thing. Same rinse and repeat. Because when I moved from Infusionsoft to go high level, good golly, did I look smart. I'm like, yo, let me show you but it was the same. And I had people call me on it, but not even in a bad way. They'd be like, oh, that's that thing that we did when we were in Infusionsoft. I remember you giving that to me. And I'm like, yeah, and it works over here too. And let me show you how. So, worst case scenario, somebody remembers it. But all that means is you're establishing real thought leadership. You're establishing real authority. Rinse and repeat, reinforce your greatest hits. Don't just join a community, lead. Go pick a community. If you're watching this, or you're on the call now, pick one now. Pick one now. This is going to be downloadable. You can have the slides. You can have the PDF. Here's what I'd like to do with you is I'd like to show you how I've done this, and I've proven this concept. I am in Alex Hormozi's Q Scale Advisor. Alex is the greatest marketer on the freaking planet. He's one of the greatest entrepreneurs I've ever encountered in my entire life. The guy's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's amazing. He's a giver. Here's what's interesting about Alex's community. He has 1,200 people, okay? There's 1,200 people, 1122, that have paid him somewhere between $18,000 and $24,000. Everybody go do the math. I think it's 20 some odd million he's made. And then you look at the leaderboard. I was number 1 yesterday. I'm number 2 today because this guy, Kevin Gong, is a machine, and he's amazing, and he's an unbelievably potent giver. Out of 1,200 people, I'm number 2. And the amount of attention and love and outreach I'm receiving, as you can see, I can't keep up with it. It's overwhelming. And it's resulted in leads. It's resulted in prospects. I started posting to gauge sentiment. And once I did that, I continued to post in the direction that I saw people going. And I asked for feedback. Every single post, I asked for feedback. What do y'all want to hear? What do y'all want to hear? And then I would post about that. So where other people are sitting here posting about the thing that they want to talk about, I'm posting about the thing that everybody else wants to hear about. And this is the pro tip, by the way. I just thought this was actually wicked genius. I hope everybody steals it. I've got 99 posts, but a niche is just one. And I went through and I said, here are the 99 things I can post about. And by the way, this is all content I've written before. This is all, you can see it. This is all content that I posted. I forget when this document is created. I think 2023. These are all topics I just took the 99 topics that I know I'm already good at. And I said, now I'm rewriting this content. It's new, it's fresh, it's real, it's authentic. And it's stuff that I don't have to think about. It takes me 20 minutes to write one of these things. I put the 99 topics together. I had ChatGPT fire me up badass nuclear topics. I made a disclaimer that the topics were ChatGPT. Everything else is 100% me. And then I let people vote on the topics. And now what? Now I go through and I create a piece of content on everything that's getting upvoted. I add things when people ask for additional information. And I just became one of the most important people in what I think happens to be the most important school community for the most important marketer on the planet. And it cost me nothing. It cost me nothing. And the value, y'all, is incalculable. And I don't pitch. I don't ask. People ask me for things that could be very easy segues to pitching. And I don't do that because it's dirty and it feels wrong and it's counterintuitive. On a long enough timeline, this is the thing that maybe I need to put across more than anything else. I don't know how this is going to come back to me, but I know based off of my past it is and it will. So if you're looking at life like a vending machine, oh, I put my dollar out, but my dollar in, where's my candy bar? You know what I mean? That's failed paradigm, flawed model. Just give first, give last, give more. Here's what I did do that I also think is pretty wicked smart. So here's my signature. You'll notice that I say, write a new post every day. You can follow me on school. You click on school and you see, what do you see? Well, what is this? There's a free forever community for entrepreneurs who want true freedom. And some people are already, every time they click on that in order to follow me and subscribe, they're going to go see this and they're going to move over to my community. So I'm not telling you, again, I don't pitch, I don't ask, I don't whatever. And give people the ability, give the people that want it, the ability to follow you in perpetuity in a way that feels accessible to them. If you're on a podcast, it should be a podcast. If it's an email newsletter, it should be an email newsletter. If it's a mastermind, it should be a mastermind. Give people the thing that they already want. I'm in a school group, I'm giving them another school group. Maintain continuity with the way they learn, the way they connect, the way they grow. And that puts you in a position of doing it with integrity so that I'm not fishing in Alex's pond. I'm not pitching. I'm not doing anything that's against the rules. I'm not doing it unethical, but other people that want to pursue me because they like the value that I provided can pursue me. And I don't know if y'all noticed this. I started this group yesterday and I have 200 members. Now, I mean, it's not a bad shake. I'm going to get super arrogant with you guys, but I guess, well, I'm just going to be bold. Okay. This is my portfolio of businesses. I own 17 businesses. All of them, with 3 exceptions, are profitable. So Driven cost me a ton of, Neato cost me literally 0 time, 100% absentee owner. This makes $450,000 net to the bottom line, by the way. I own half of that. You do the math. This is a $1 million business with 55% gross margins. This business does 20, 30 grand a month net to us. I own 30% of it. Here's why I bring it up. All, without one exception, all of these businesses were built on the back of the authority that I've been able to build using this strategy. All I've done, and a lot of you that have been following me for a while know, you've seen it, you've watched me do it. I've been able to build a empire using this strategy, and y'all, I'm not good at it. I have 1,200 subscribers on YouTube. I have 20,000 followers on Facebook. I have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I am not good at this. I am not Alex Hormozi. You know what I mean? You don't have to be good at it. You just have to be consistent. Alex made $105 million in a day. That dude is going to hit $1 billion, no question. I'm not doing too bad. I built a $10 million net worth on the back of contributing to other people's communities. And that has been the one. That's the thing. That's the needle mover. That's what worked for me. If you want to be strategic about it, pick the right community. If you don't know what community to pick, use mine as training wheels. Go into 3X freedom. Love on people. I want to help founders achieve freedom through entrepreneurship. And I want to make the world a better place. And y'all, it couldn't be easier. This is it. It's a silver freaking platter. Join a community. If you're new or small, join a small community and give.